Hey guys, what's going on? It's your girl SkkyZone. Well, welcome to my platform. This is the second reading of Soulacoaster The Diary of Me by R. Kelly. I left off on chapter I'm sorry I made that noise, okay? I left off on Women in the House, and I'm going to begin on Sunday morning. That's where I'm going to start reading from. My belief in God has been with me since I was a little boy, and I still believe in God now. I believe in the grace and mercy of Jesus. That belief got seated in me when I was just a kid. No matter how many other crazy things jumped off in my life, God has always been there. My mother made sure of that. On Sundays, I would put on my freshly ironed vest, black trousers, clean white shirt, little clip on my bow, and follow Mom to the little storefront church where we went to sing and pray. I had to get myself ready for a long day. Church went on for 3 and sometimes 4 hours. The church didn't hold more than 25 people. It was no bigger than a liquor store or a joint or a pizza joint. Our pastor was Mother Nance. She had these big, frightening eyes, but was a sweet lady who was all about the Lord. She preached her sermons like songs, singing the lessons she hoped to impact on us. A small band backed Mother Nance. The beats came from a drummer banging on nothing but a snare. He worked it hard, and the groove he laid down made me happy. The broken down organ had a bunch of missing keys. From where I sat, I could see the woman at the old instrument. And don't ask me how, when she hit the key that didn't work, I could fill in the missing note in my mind. It was a game I liked to play. I could hear the whole composition. Everyone in the room had the music in 2D. I could hear it in 3D. When my mother got up, faced the congregation, and started in on Amazing Grace, she became a star. She sang so hard until everyone was standing and waving. Ooh, I know how them type of church services is, okay? Whew. Shouting God's name, they loved my mother singing. When the saints heard I could sing, when the saints heard I could sing, they wanted me to do a solo. But I was too shy. Besides, I figured Mom sang good enough for the two of us. Later in the service, when I got a little bored with the songs, I changed the words around. When everyone was singing Jesus in the main line, telling what you want. Oh, Lord, I remember that song. Jesus on the main line, telling what you want. I sang, that girl is close. That girl in the choir is so fine. Go tell her what you want. And I hear the lyrics right along with the song. Once Aunt Rose, who I had an auntie named Rose too. Oh my God, bless her heart. My Aunt Rose passed last August. Singing right behind me. Once Aunt Rose heard me singing, sitting right behind me. Once Aunt Rose, sitting right behind me, heard me and slapped me upside my head. Boy, she said, you better sing the right lyrics or I'm telling your mom. Ooh, you know how some of them church mamas was right there, be trying to get your ass in trouble so you can be writing, I will not sleep in church. I remember Mama made me write that 100 times. I would not fall asleep in church. Service went on so long, I usually couldn't help but nod off. Ooh, look at that prophecy. One time, I don't know how long I had been snoozing when a scream woke me up. It was my mother, Joanne Kelly, had caught the Holy Ghost and was shaking and shivering like she was like she had some type of terrible fever. She was yelling, ain't gonna smoke no more, Jesus. Ain't gonna smoke no more. Ain't gonna smoke another cigarette as long as I live. Tears were streaming down her face, and she was crying and talking in tongues, reaching into her purse, grabbing her packs of cigarettes and throwing them into the aisles. No more, she was yelling. I ain't gonna touch another pack of them cancer sticks. No more cancer sticks for the rest of my life. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Lord, thank you. After church, We went home for a big Sunday dinner, which was always delicious. We were all filled up and satisfied. My mother was drinking her coffee when she leaned over and whispered to me, "Run over to Mr. Eichenberg's and get me a pack of Winston's." "But Mom," I started to say. "You heard me, boy. Now go." When I got back, my mother was waiting for me at the door. She took her Winston's, went to the bathroom, locked the door behind her, and lit up. When she was through, she sprayed the smell away with a can of aerosol. She didn't want anyone to know, but I knew more than I should have known about the things that was happening in our house. I was there the Sunday that Grandma came back from church and announced that she got saved. "That mean you ain't drinking no more of that old granddad whiskey?" Mom asked. "Not a drip," said Grandma. "And what about your Paul Malls?" Mom wanted to know. "Quit smoking, quit cursing, just giving it to the Lord. Nothing else for me." I was surprised. Grandma and Uncle Kerry loved their old granddad. And when they fought, they loved cussing up a storm. "What about Kerry? He get saved along with you?" asked Mom. "Yes, he did," said Grandma. Kerry was standing right next to her. The man was still all smiles. Well, my mother muttered. "The Lord works in mysterious ways." "Yes, he do," said my grandmother. "He sure do." From that point on, Grandma moods were more taken down from that point on, Grandma moves were more taken down to you than screaming at Uncle Kerry. In fact, we referred to Grandma and Uncle Kerry, who lived in the upper floor, as the uppities. After Grandma got saved and indulged her uppity attitude, she and my mother would get into heavy arguments. For example, Grandma didn't like my mother playing bingo. "You going against God," Grandma told her. "Why you say that?" "I don't. The Bible does." "Where in the Bible does it tell you not to play bingo?" Back then, they didn't have no bingo. Proverbs 13:11. "Dishonest money dwindles away, but he who gathers money little by little makes it grow." "That's what I'm doing," my mother said. "I'm making my little money grow. Besides, nothing dishonest about bingo." "You can play the numbers," said Grandma. "Everyone plays the numbers. Look here," Grandma explained, opening up her Bible. Ecclesiastes 5:10. "Whoever loves money has had money enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied." I didn't say I love money. I just said I need money. We need money. You need money. We need God. We got God, her daughter said. But to keep from getting kicked out of this house here, we gotta pay rent. And you telling me that if I hit the number and collect a few thousand, you won't be following me to a nicer house? I'm following Jesus to wherever he leads. Well, I believe Jesus is leading me to the numbers man, because this week I got a good hunch. But if my number do come in, I won't bother telling you. I don't want my Bible believing mother covered in my sin. With that, my mother walked out the room. Grandma gave me a look as if to say, "Boy, you better not smile." And I didn't. Next chapter called Enjoying the Ride. No, this one is called School Days. I believe it's called School Days, not Enjoying the Ride. Let me check up and see. I gotta take me a sip of water. Wait a minute. It's called School Days. That's him going to school here. Look, showing y'all the pictures. Like, you a little chilling, like in school. Remember that? They show you the little pictures. I always wanted to do my homework and get all A's. I wanted to prove myself and make my mother proud. But every time I made up my mind to conquer the problem and start reading, every time I opened up a book, my mind would turn off. Wow. When I was at church, I learned to sing words from memory. But at school, when it came to open up the book and read silently or out loud, I couldn't focus out the words. I didn't even see words. Every time my teacher called on me to read, my heart sank. I choked. I stuttered and I stuttered. I stammered and I stuttered. It was terrible because the other kids would start giggling. I felt like a cripple and an alien. Here my schoolmates, here were my schoolmates learning like nobody's business, building up their vocabularies, reading all these stories. I wanted to read so bad. Excuse me, I could taste it. I wanted to do what everybody else was doing, but the more I tried, the worse it became. Trying to learn how to read and spell in school for me was like throwing a brick on the top of the Sears Tower. Wait a minute, I got a text. Look, that tower got me, that text got me distracted. I done had me a good old steak and stuff. I done ate me a good, ooh, Lord, that food was good. But anyway, that's how hard it was for me. I really tried hard because for no other reason, I didn't want the other kids calling me a dummy. I look around at every other kid and they were reading and writing and spelling and doing math. They were going forth with their books and their studies. But when it came to me being able to study, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't make sense of the words on the page. I desperately wanted to learn how to read, so I made a hell of an effort. But the more I tried to study, my mouth would get dry. I'd get sleepy and I'd start yearning. The minute I even tried to read a book or study or spelling words, I wanted to do my homework and get all A's. I wanted to prove to myself and make my mother proud. But every time I made up my mind to read or my mind to conquer the problem and start reading, every time I opened up a book, my mind would turn off again and again. I make a mess out of the whole reading business. I wish the ground would open up and swallow me whole. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to think about myself. Was I sick? Was I really a dummy? What was wrong with me? Those thoughts scared me to death, but I was too afraid to say anything to anybody. You got genius, my mother told me after a day at school where kids were laughing at me because I couldn't read. I wanted to believe my mother, but it was hard. To me as a kid, if you were a good reader, it meant you had a good brain. If you were a bad reader, it meant you had no brain. Bad reading meant you were obviously a dummy. It wasn't until I was an adult that an educator told me about dyslexia. She said dyslexia is where kids having trouble learning to read or interpret words. She said it's got nothing to do with your intelligence. Steve Jobs, Walt Disney, and even Leonardo da Vinci all had the same form of dyslexia. But my disability is something more than dyslexia. They didn't know what caused my problem. I'll never know if it was possibly brain damage, as one specialist diagnosed, and an accident of spirit, God's way of making sure that I fulfill my destiny. Or an accident of spirit, God's way of making sure that I fulfill my destiny. Another crazy thing about my reading problem is that I've always loved words, still do. I love stories about faraway places and different kinds of people. I want to be able to read those stories like everyone else. I always love listening to how different people, my mother, my aunts, Uncle Doug, Lucius, told stories, each in their own special way. I instinctively understood the power of language and the magic of storytelling from a very young age. Words had a spirit that got all over me. Depending on how they were used, words could scare me, confront me, encourage me, make me happy, or make me sad. It broke my heart that I found it so hard, in fact, downright impossible to read the words on the page. Outside of school, I spent a good amount of time with my brothers, Bruce and Carrie. My mother wanted all her kids to get along. Y'all are blood, she would remind us. Y'all need to be there for each other. Sometimes that was easy, especially if it involved Kung Fu. Me and my brothers were deep into Bruce Lee. We loved to go meet movie theater on King Drive. We would go meet at the movie theater on King Drive down the street where we lived and sit in there and hypnotized by films like Enter the Dragon or First of Fury. Bruce Lee was our man. From his lightning fast nunchucks to his awesome sword, to the way he downed a dozen of opponents without breaking a sweat. He had that cut up 12-pack body, that attitude, that look in his eyes that said, I don't know the meaning of fear. When we left the theater, we were out of our minds like Bruce Lee, cockiness. We were worked up and ready to roll against anyone who even looked at us funny. We come out that movie kicking like we actually knew that what we were doing. You better not challenge us after a Bruce Lee flick. Big brother Bruce and little brother Carrie, we called Carrie Killer after a Flip Wilson character Grandma Love came charging out of a Bruce Lee film high on action we just seen. Man, we were flying on that Bruce Lee energy. We got home playing like we were actually in the movie. When I landed on a roundabout kick on Killer that sent him through our living room window. He got a little cut and felt some pain, but it was nothing like the pain we feel when Mama get home. We knew that if we didn't think of something quick, Mom would give us the worst whooping of our lives. So we started thinking and plotting, trying to come up with a story that we were sure Mom would buy. We got it all planned out. We thought we were real smart. Mom came home right off and yelled, "What the hell happened in here?" Big Bruce led off. Well, me and Killer, we was his backup. We was sitting here in the living room watching TV, said Bruce, when someone, maybe they were gang members or something, came back hollering and screaming. And next thing we knew, they threw a brick. They threw a brick through the window. We ran to see who it was, but by then, Mama, they was all gone. They was long gone. You see, Mom, the brick is still here, right here. Right, this where it landed. Thank goodness it didn't hit any of us. We're lucky. Mom, real lucky. My mother just stood there staring and looking at them like, I mean, seriously. Gonna ask you boys again, what happened? Me and Killer backed up Bruce's story. We saw how scared we were when that brick came flying through. Mom just kept staring. Her eyes were like laser beams going through our heads. Gonna ask you one more time, boys. Then I'm gonna get the biggest switch I could find and start whooping your behinds until I hear the truth. The thought of us getting a whooping, we started defending ourselves even harder. We kept saying, we were minding our own business. How we gonna be good boys? We were minding our own business, how we gonna be good boys and how we didn't do anything wrong. And then came this brick. Then came the bullet. Mom just stood there shaking her head. We saw that she wasn't buying a word of it. But at the same time, to our little brains, our story seemed bulletproof. If what y'all say is true, she said, then why is all the glass broken there on the porch? Why ain't there no broken glass here on the inside? If someone threw a brick in the window, how does the glass shatter backwards? We hadn't thought of that. Of course, my mother was right. That wasn't a shard of glass in the living room. The only thing in the living room was the brick still on the floor. The cleanest brick you ever saw. It wasn't even sitting crooked. 4 days after that, we could barely sit at all. Mom whooped our asses good. We all got out of the whole thing was a bad memory from her switch of fury. Bruce Lee, hold on, I need to take a drink. Hold on, y'all. Mom getting dry shit. Ooh. Excuse me, the piglet. Bruce Lee created the kick-butt genre of kung fu movies that paved the way for everyone who followed him, from Chuck Norris, Steven Seagal, and Jean-Claude Van Damme to Jackie Chan. The death of our indestructible hero. when Lee's brain swelled in his sleep and he died in 1973 was a painful pill that me and my brothers and I tearfully swallowed. There were times like these when my brothers and I stuck together. At other times, we could barely stand being in the same room, especially Carrie and me. I never got along too well with my little brother, and we used to fight all the time. One night, I wanted to watch Good Times, and he didn't. He had another program he thought was better. Nothing was better than Good Times. I not only love the show, but I love the theme song. I love singing it to this day. The show opened with a shot of high-rise housing projects. Although it was never mentioned in the opening credits, everyone in Chicago knew it was our very own Cabrini Green. Back then, the hard and good times, even the Evans families, Florida and James, JJ, Thelma, and Michael, the militant midget, faced on every episode was absolute reality TV to me. But Carrie was watching an old Three Stooges movie and wouldn't let me change the channels. He took a swing at me and landed a blow to my left eye. My eye got puffy and I got crazy angry. I grabbed a broom from the kitchen and started chasing him. I planned to hit him over the head with the broom and chased him into the bathroom. My mother yelled for us to cut it out, but we kept fighting. "If y'all don't stop," she screamed, "I'm coming in there." I still wasn't stopping. I got carried back into the bathtub when Mom showed up. She happened to be carrying a knife she'd been using to slice some vegetables. I didn't know she was directly behind me, so when I stepped back, I stepped into her knife and got cut. Blood was gushing everywhere, and I was hollering, "Y'all trying to kill me! Mom wants to kill me!" My mother dropped the knife and grabbed me crying. Said she was sorry. She immediately started to bandage me up. Turns out the cut wasn't that deep at all, but that didn't keep me from hollering like a baby. My mother always wanted to show us how family should be and how we should be able to lean on each other and stand by one another. I wanted to please her and obey her. "Take your brother Carrie to the park, Rob," she said one day. "Let him play on the swings. Don't push him too high." When we got to the playground, Carrie was happy as could be. He loved swings. He jumped off and asked me to push him. I'd give him a shove. "Higher," he screamed. I pushed him higher. "Higher," he screamed louder. I pushed him even higher. Little bro was having the time of his life. "Higher," he kept demanding. Now I knew not to push any higher because he was already flying super high, but he was insisting. So I kept pushing while he kept sailing higher until the swing got loose. I saw him get caught on the chain. He came flying off and hit the grass. Carrie was a mess, blood all over. He was crying. I was scared, but somehow I got him home. Mom rushed him to the emergency room. All I could think was, "God, what have I done to my little brother?" Man, you can kind of see that he, like when you have those kids that kind of like always be accident prone and stuff like that, they be kind of nervous and kind of feel like that because, he already done lost Lulu. Nah, you know what I'm saying? Nah, the injuries with his, yeah, so that makes somebody have bad nerves. I wonder he probably did used to bite his nails when he was younger. Ain't no telling. Man, it's amazing how so many of these stories are relatable to me growing up in my neighborhood. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. But, I'm pretty sure it relates to a lot of us because we all done had these struggles, okay? Similar struggles we all have. One secret was about what was happening to me in the house. Next was my secret about reading and writing. And the third secret, strange as it seemed, was music. This chapter here is called Secrets. As a kid, I had a lot of secrets. Some was terrible, some were beautiful, some were both. There were so many secrets to stuff into my imaginary box that I was running out of room. The first secret was sex. I couldn't reveal it because of the rules against snitching. I had a feeling my mama wouldn't play no secret shit. No way. No how. Meanwhile, though, odd things were happening in my body. I was confused about it. I was dying to tell my mother, but I was scared to death about what would happen if the truth ever came out. One secret was about what was happening to me in the house. Next was my secret about reading and writing. And the third secret, as strange as it seems, was music. I would hear music like I had a radio playing nonstop in my head. Sometimes it would switch stations. Every now and then it would play one song, and then sometimes before the song's finished, another song came in. I would hear melodies, although I never knew what they meant. In fact, I thought everybody heard the music. If I was at school and it was time to read, I put my head down on the desk and drift off. While I was drifting off, though, music would start up so heavy and loud that it felt like my head would explode. I'd pick up my head to see if everyone had heard it or not. I'd say to one of the other kids, "Hey, did you hear that?" They look at me like I was crazy. And that just made things worse. It was another problem that I put in the back of my brick box because I didn't want everyone to know. And I was afraid about what would happen if they found out. It was one of those scariest times in my life. I couldn't figure out if I was sick or retarded or dying or if there was just something really messed up about me. My mother always taught me that too much of anything can kill you. So I used to worry about too much music playing and too much music happening inside me. Was it an overload or an overdose? I couldn't really tell anyone how music wouldn't leave me alone. No one except maybe my mother would understand. As a kid, it was even too much for me to understand. I was writing songs before I even knew what songwriting meant. Just as one melody came pouring out, another one interrupted it, and then another, and then another. And then all kinds of harmonies, all kinds of notes coming from everywhere, ideas, thoughts, endless songs. It was beyond crazy. I didn't want to tell anyone what was happening inside my brain because I couldn't explain it. My brain was overcrowded. Music was overwhelming to me. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to please my mother, please my teacher. I wanted to be like other kids. Instead, I was stumbling and falling down over words while melodies were pouring in and singing inside my head. Here's another thing. Even though there were times when the sheer volume of music in my head had me thinking I was an alien, there were even more times when music confronted me, ministered to me, gave me life. Because I absorbed music like a sponge absorbs water, I couldn't help but soak every thirst-quenching drop. Picture the porch in front of our 3-flat on a late afternoon in the summer. The sky was clear. The weather was warm. Mom was out there with Lucius, Uncle Doug, and Uncle Cuz. I never knew if the man was my cousin or my uncle. Picture the neighbors dropping by, caught up in the sound of the radio flowing on air. Now, hear the sounds of the Isley brothers singing, "Drifting on a memory, doom, doom, doom. Ain't no place I'd rather be, you, The groove so free and easy, you had to stay with Smokey, soft and warm, a quiet summer storm, or Frankie Beverly. When the sun settles down, it takes a lovely form. In the golden times of day, this music was from heaven. Music without pressure, pure magical music, made singing, "Shine, children, shine." I don't know that melody. And my mom's swaying along, arms outstretched. "If you believe in love, shine." That unforced, free-flowing, syndicated, sweet sound of voice, horn and bass made everything seem right. It took the sting out of life. It was nothing but sugar and cream, nothing but clouds floating on a breeze of love. Music said life for all the strife could be heaven on earth. Hold on, I gotta clean up. Hold on. Yes. I'm gonna call you right back. I'm reading. I'm doing my reading. I'm recording. Wow, is everything okay? All right, I'm gonna call you right back. Text it to me. Text my phone, and I can respond to you. Okay. Sorry about that. Where was I at? Music. Okay. That unforced, free-flowing. Okay, no, it took the sting out of life. It was nothing but sugar and cream, nothing but clouds floating on a breeze of love. Music said life for all the strife could be heaven on earth if only we listened to the singers and the songs they sang. Watching them listening to Teddy Pendergrass or Donny Hathaway, David Ruffin or Eddie Levert, Etta James or Curtis Mayfield, I started dreaming this dream. I imagined that one day people would be relaxing on their porches listening to music that I made, songs that I sang. One day I prayed I could take the pressure off and bring calm to folks like Mama and Lucius, like Frankie Beverly and Mays. One day I'd be able to lay down grooves that would make people happy, loving. I'd create music from the heart that touches hearts. In the world of music during the 1970s, Chicago soul was like an ice-cold pitcher of sweet tea. Known for his blend of Southern and gospel soul, backed by sweet harmonies and horn and string arrangements. Chicago soul was powerful as music coming out of Detroit or Memphis. Record labels like Oak Chess, One Deerful, and Shy Sound promoted artists like Barry Butler, The Impressions, The Dells, Etta James, The Shy-Lights, Curtis Mayfield, and Gene Wilder. Sam Cooke, that's the most loving man you will ever want to know or want to listen to, Mom said. He was her favorite singer, bar none. Sam Cooke was raised right here in Chicago, she boasts. Not only was Sam a soul music pioneer, Mom said, Sam Cooke was a businessman who owned his own record label and publishing company. Keep that in mind. That's the reason why you see him broke into a sweat. Why Sam may not be here anymore. His story was on Netflix. I believe that was Netflix. Beautiful story. And if you ever watch the Sam Cooke story, you're going to see a lot of similarities to him and Mr. Kelly. Got there, so I'm going to drop it off and be back around 11. Hold on, I got to clean up on aisle 6. Do you want me to take you? Or drop it? Sam Cooke, like I said, was a businessman. Listen, waiting for this text to come through from my daughter. He came out the church, she explained, but the church, I can do it. Okay, all right, handle your business. Be careful. Hold on. Be careful. He came out the church, she explained, but took the church with him. That's why you hear God in every note he makes. Ain't no one like Sam. Even though I was only 10 years old, she strongly urged me to study this man. You learn him good, Mama said. There's a nice picture here of Sam Cooke. There were two sides of him, and you best learn them both. When he was with the soul stringers, the soul steerers singing gospel, and when he started singing pop, no one could touch him, baby. Each side of that man's music was as good as the other. My mom and I listened to Sam Cooke for hours on end, whether it was touch the hem of his garment or you send me. Whether it was Jesus wash away my troubles or twisting the night away. Nearer to thee or Cupid, he'll make a way. Or I love you for sentimental reasons. Joy, joy to my soul, or change gonna come. That was my mama's song, change is gonna come. That's why I kind of paused a little bit, because I'm like, wait a minute, I was trying to think of the song. My mama was like, I was born by the river. That was her song. In a little tent, oh, but just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long, long time coming. Yeah, but change is gonna come. That's the one my mother liked. I could hear the church echo in Cooke's silly voice. His soulful confession helped me understand what I saw at home, in church, and on the streets of Southside Chicago. I understood sorrow with Chain Gang, dreamed of giddy love with Cupid, and enjoyed finger-popping fun with Twisting the Night Away. Listening to Sam Cooke's music wasn't enough for Mom, though. She wanted to make sure I truly understand his ability to manipulate lyrics and command each genre. No matter if it was a bluesy ballad, soul-felt gospel, rock and roll, or funky rhythm and blues. Hear him beyond that note, baby, she would say. That's his specialty. Singers are like great chefs. They got their specialties. Some bake pies, some can fry chicken. You'll find your specialty, sweetheart, and when you do, the minute you open your mouth to sing, folks will know it's you. Meanwhile, listen to the chefs, learn their recipes. My mother considered Stevie Wonder a master chef. The first Stevie song I learned was Fingertips. When I got older, she took Stevie's master blend cut and taught me how to memorize every last lick, every breath, every riff. She placed a nickel on the record player needle to slow down the revolution so the runs couldn't go so the runs could go really slow. So I can learn them and get them down pat. Joanne Kelly and Stevie Wonder's mother, Lula Mae Hardaway, had a lot in common. Lula Mae also recognized her son's musical gifts at an early age and nurtured his genius. Stevie was barely a teen when his mom heard him repeating just a slice of a lyric. Here I am, baby. Here I am, baby. It was Lula Mae who supplied the hook. Signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours. Stevie's mother was by his side when he signed his Motown 1961, when he signed with Motown in 1961, and she helped him write his hit records such as I Was Made to Love Her, You Met Your Match, I Don't Know Why I Love You. Soon I was sounding more like Stevie than Stevie. Same was true with Marvin Gaye. I could sing What's Going On or Let's Get It On with Marvin like attitude, mellow but intense. I could sing with that Marvin like attitude, mellow but intense. I could fix my voice like Donny Hathaway. Mom made sure I knew the songs of older cats like Jackie Wilson and Ray Charles. At Christmas time, it was all about Nat King Cole. I was born into a perfect into the perfect musical storm. Everything that Mom loved, I loved. From Billie Holiday to Dinah Washington to Aretha. I soaked up everything she had soaked up. She loved Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers. But when Michael and his brothers came out with ABC, I Want You Back, Mom was loving that just as much. When it came to music, the woman had no prejudices. Her musical history became my history. Like everyone in the hood, we saw a new history in the making. We jumped on board the musical change. When the Sugar Hill Gang started singing a hip hop, a hippity hip hop, don't stop, and the Rapper's Delight, we were there with that too. Those early jams, Curtis Blow, 1980 hit The Breaks, which was the first certified gold rap record, and Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five's 1982 Game Changer, The Message, which is regarded as one of the greatest songs in hip-hop history. That song had us young kids dancing just as wild and free as when Mom and them were dancing to James Brown. Like Tarzan in the jungle, learning how to talk to the animals and swing from vine to vine, I learned to talk to music. I learned to swing from one musical vine to another. I learned every sound there was to hear, and I could make every sound that I could hear. I grew up in a place on the planet where music was beautiful, beautiful music, God's music, the people's music, my mother's music. Music spoke to every minute of my every day. I don't know why people want to text me now. You got the gift, boy, my mother would say. You got talent. But how could a talented person have such a terrible time with simple reading? Didn't that prove that something was wrong? Wasn't that something I had to hide from the world? And what about what was happening at the house behind my mother's back? Where good little boys supposed to be doing the things that I had been that was happening to me? Were good little boys supposed to be doing the things that had been happening to me? Shouldn't I have tried to stop these things? Shouldn't I have stopped gazing at the women running around half naked? Shouldn't I have stopped talking or taking Polaroids of them doing the nasty? On the Soulacoaster, a talented kid with too many secrets did his best just to hold on. That was when I understood the love between Lucius and my mother. This chapter here is called Devotion. One afternoon, I was walking home, glad to be out of the classroom, when I heard a song blasting from our porch. It was Kung Fu Fighting. That song always made me happy, and seeing Mom and Lucius on the front porch drinking their Millers, I could see they were getting happy too. There's something going on outside. They were dancing and hugging like newlyweds, carrying on like they didn't have a care in the world. But then Lucius said something to my mom that she didn't like, and suddenly things started to change. It didn't take much for things to change when Mom and Lucius were drinking. Now, Mom was cussing Lucius' ass out. Now, Lucius was cussing her out. She said, I ain't got to take that. He said, I ain't got to take that. My mama ran in the house. He followed her. She screamed at him to get out of her goddamn kitchen. He said, screw you. My little heart started beating because I was scared. I was scared that something bad was about to happen to her. But Joanne Kelly was straight up tough. That woman could take care of herself. She was out of that kitchen and back on that porch, Lucius close behind her. Get out of my face, Mama said to Lucius. Kung Fu Fighting was playing over and over again. The record was stuck. I ain't going nowhere, bitch, yelled Lucius. She ran back into the house. When she came out, she was holding a heavy glass mug. Put a hand on me and I'll fuck you up, she threatened. Who you gonna fuck up, bitch? Lucius turned around and grabbing and twisting his arm. Who you gonna fuck up? With her free arm, Joanne Kelly whacked Lucius across his goddamn head. The mug split open and cut his forehead, blood gushing out everywhere. Lucius staggered. Lucius staggered, fell, passed out unconscious. My mother ran to him screaming, "Call 911." A neighbor called the police. By the time the cops arrived, Lucius had come too. What happened, they asked. Lucius hesitated. I was shaking because I thought, oh my God, they about to take my mama to jail. Lucius looked at the cops and said, I had just a few too many drinks and fell down the stairs. That was all. That was the only thing that happened. That was it. Is that it? Asked the cops. That's all it is, said Lucius. That was the day I fell in love with Lucius. 2 weeks flew by. It was a Friday night and rent was due. Oh, shit. Mom was short on cash. Lucius was supposed to pay his share, but he wasn't home. He was out with the boys. My mother convinced the landlord to give her another week. I was glad because I was tired of hopping from house to house every time money was funny. We called the landlord the monster. Seemed like the monster was always on our tail. Saturday came and my mother was still looking for Lucius. She was boiling mad. Sunday we went to church and when we got back, Lucius was still a no-show. Mom was boiling even more. Monday evening, he showed up. Where you been? She asked. Out. Any fools know you been out, but where? Goddammit. Don't matter, said Lucius. You right, it don't matter. Long as you got your rent. I don't. What you mean you don't? Can't you understand English, woman? I don't means I don't. That ain't gonna cut it. Gonna have to. That ain't gonna cut it. Gonna have to. Give me your share of the rent. Excuse me. Can't give what I don't got. Besides, I'm tired of talking. Lucius stormed out, but Joanne Kelly wasn't letting him off that easy. She wanted her money. She reached for his wallet. He pushed her away. She scratched his face with her fingernail. He kicked her, then ran out to his car. She ran after him. Lucius got into his car and slammed the door, but my mother's dress was caught in the door. Lucius took off, dragging her down the street. Me and my brother Bruce chased the car, jumping into it, beating on Lucius to stop. The car stopped. Mom was all banged up and bruised. With the screaming and carrying on, somebody had called the cops who had arrived soon after. Who hurt this woman? They want to know. Looking at the black and blue markups up and down my mother's arms and legs. No one, she said. I just hurt myself. Cops looked over at Lucius. Sure you don't want to press any charges, they asked. I'm sure, she said. Mr. Blue. This chapter is called Mr. Blue. In one of the neighborhoods where we lived when I was a kid, there was a man named Mr. Blue. My mother always liked him because during the summer, he put up his car, drive us out to the country, and show us how to pick fruit. Mr. Blue brought us skateboards and bicycle. Mr. Blue was cool. On this particular morning, Mr. Blue came by, saw that I was by myself, and told me to come over to his place. I followed him over. When we got there, he said, help yourself to the watermelon in the fridge. The melon looked good, so I helped myself to some. Meanwhile, Mr. Blue went to the bathroom and took a shower. I didn't think nothing of it. When he came out, he was wearing a robe loosely tied around the waist. As I finished my melon, he told me to come into his room. When I was a little boy about your age, Mr. Blue recalled, I had me an uncle who paid me $1 to rub his dick. Shit. I'd take the money and buy me all kinds of candy. At this point, Mr. Blue pulled out his penis and started rubbing it with grease. It looked like a monster. The last thing I wanted to do was rub it. Well, sir, Mr. Blue said, $1 ain't what it used to be, but $5 ain't nothing to squeeze at. If I give you $5 to rub on, well, dang, man. But before Mr. Blue could say another word, I was running out the door with my voice trailing after me. He was shouting, if you know what's good for you, boy, you won't say nothing to no one. Say a word and I'll cook your goddamn goose. Later that night, I was talking to my good friend, Sam. The thought of what happened with Mr. Blue was bothering me to a point where I couldn't think of anything else. I was scared to say anything, but I couldn't hold it back. Hey, Sam, I whispered, if I tell you something, promise you'll never tell anyone, okay? It's about Mr. Blue. Sam immediately cut me off. You too, he asked. Sam told me that Mr. Blue had tried the same stuff on him. We vowed never to say anything to anyone. A month later, I was putting together another cardboard house in the backyard. This time, I got real curtains. I got it tricked out so pretty, I wanted my girlfriend, Lizette, to see it. It's not Lizette. Her name is Lisette. It's not Lizette, though. It's Lisette. Your playhouse is like a real house, Rob, she said. We sat on the little rug. I put over the grass and pretended to be watching a TV that wasn't there. We pretended we were married. Lisette, I'm going to call her Lisette because I don't want to call her ass Lizette. Lisette kissed me on the cheek. I kissed her back, and the puppy love started to grow. We were both 10. That night, I dreamed of Lisette. We lived in a house like you see on television with a white picket fence, a backyard, and a swimming pool. Afterward, we were riding in our fancy car to a fancy restaurant where the rich folks ate. I woke up. Beautiful dream, beautiful Lisette. I had no idea for my playhouse. I decided to take the curtains off Mom's bed, put them on the grass, and pretended it was a couch. Me and Lisette would sit on the couch together and act like husband and wife. The pillows were pink, Lisette's favorite color. I grabbed the pillows and carried them outside. When I got to the yard, I saw that the playhouse door was ajar. Even a stranger, I heard Lisette's laughter and playful voice. When I looked inside, I saw my friend on top of Lisette, kissing her and trying to pull her pants down. Get out of here, I screamed at Sam. Get away from my girl. But Sam wasn't budging, and neither was Lisette. I couldn't control my fury, so I jumped on Sam. He was stronger than me. He pinned me down and gave me a good licking. To retaliate, all I could do was scream at the top of my lungs. You told me not to tell anyone, but I'm telling everyone. I'm telling everyone how Mr. Blue messed with you. You said it was a secret, but it ain't a secret no more. Because I'm yelling it out. Mr. Blue messed with Sam. Mr. Blue messed with Sam. My sister heard me screaming and told my mom, who was shocked. She didn't know about Mr. Blue. She called the cops and they showed up at Mr. Blue's door. We never saw that man again. This one is called Jump Shoot. One day I'm going to be a symbol and I'm going to stand for Chicago. There were times when I had to get out of the house. There was too much noise, screaming, arguing. There were too many people having sex. A bike ride was a great escape. By the time I was 11 or 12 years old, I rode my Huffy bike all the way from 34th Street to the Sears Tower. At the time, the tallest tower in the world on South Wacker Drive. So when I got near, I look up at the awesome skyscraper and think, it's gonna fall on me. Crazy as it sounds, I get scared, but I wouldn't run. Rather than back away from the tower, I get closer. I get right up under it. I challenge it and say, Sears Tower, I dare you to fall on me. I dare you to scare me anymore. You ain't nothing but a steel and concrete. You ain't nothing but steel and concrete. You may be some kind of symbol of this city, but one day I'm going to be a symbol. I'm going to stand for Chicago. One day I'm going to stand tall as you. I remember that day just like it happened. It had rained the night before, and riding my bike down Martin Luther King Boulevard, the morning mist fell fresh on my face. Inside my head, I was hearing music. Music was drowning out the rest of the world. Music was my shield and my protector. It was a blessing and a burden. It was heavy on my head when I was pedaling down to the playground to hoop with my pals. Like a lot of kids, I was dreaming of playing in the NBA, like Dr. J. Folks said that the south side of Chicago was rough, but I never fooled with the rough guys. They didn't bother me. Their business didn't interest me. I was afraid of the streets. Hearing gunshots, for example, was no big thing. Been hearing them all my whole life. But this gunshot was different. This pow rang in my ear, and suddenly I felt something hit me in my chest. My head went woozy, and I couldn't control the bike. Then everything got crazy and strange. It was like I was leaving my body. In slow motion, I saw myself falling off the bike. My vision went blurry, and I saw people running towards me. Before long, my mother was running up to me. Along with my brothers and sisters, I heard them in an echo. Saw them from in the fog. Robert's been shot, my mother shouted. My baby's been shot. I closed my eyes and lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. My shoulder was hurting, something fierce. Mom was sitting next to me holding my hand. Rob, God is good. God spared your life, baby, she moaned. What happened? You got shot, son. Who shot me? We don't know. Years later, after I had some success, BET was doing a show about where I grew up. As I was showing the director and the film crew around the hood, we ran into the guy who shot me. He had gone to jail for what he had done and talked about it on camera. It was all good. Then he handed me a demo tape to check out to see if I could do anything for him. But back then, I was only worried about one thing. Will I be able to shoot the ball? Doctor said you'll be fine. They can't take the bullet out because it's too close to a nerve. If they touch that nerve, it could paralyze your whole body. So they're going to leave it there. They say the tissue will grow around the bullet. The blessing is that the bullet didn't hit your head or your heart. The blessing is that God has a beautiful plans for you, baby. But will I still be able to jump shoot? I had to know. 3 weeks later, I was back on my bike pedaling over the playground to work on my jump shoot, my jump shot. Because of the bullet in my shoulder, my shot was off, and I wasn't happy. I was frustrated, and I cried about it because it hurt like hell when I tried to lift my arm. But I really got scared when I started shooting funny. I wanted my jumper back. More than anything in the world, I wanted to feel that sweet power of the ball going into the hoop. The pain didn't matter. How could I go through life without a killer jump shot? There are many important things in this world that a good jump shots, my mother told me. Like what? Like music. You were born to sing songs, not shoot basketballs. I didn't dare talk back to her, but in my mind, I was thinking, I'm going to get my jump shot back. My jump shot was all I need. How else would I get out the hood and take care of my mother? I grew up in Madden Park. That's where the big boys hoop. We called it the Uncle's Tournament. Hope. Some kids were scared of the streets, and with good reasons. Some kids were scared of the playgrounds, where the bullies and the gangbangers acted like they ruled the world. But none of that scared me, not even after I was shot. Instead, I was scared of the classroom. I was scared of being called on, scared of everyone learning that I couldn't do what they could do, read and write. No one wanted to learn more than me. No one seemed more troubled. The minute the bell rang, I ran out of school like a bat out of hell. I couldn't wait to the playground and find me a game of basketball. One day when I was 11 and on my way to hoop, me and some of my homies got cornered by thugs looking to steal our lunch money. I wasn't about to get messed up over lunch money, so I gave him some change. One homie, though, refused. "It's my goddamn money," he said. Without even hesitating, 2 of the 3 gangbangers slashed his face with a broken whiskey bottle. That's when I knew that if I made the right decision, I'd spend the rest of the afternoon at the playground working on that jump shot that still wasn't right. Every year when we were growing up, there was an amazing event called the Bud Billiken Parade and Picnic. The Bud Billiken Parade and Picnic. Coca-Cola had a float. McDonald's had a float. Jesse Jackson had a float. Entertainers waved at people. Singers sang. Musicians played. And there was funky music, good food, and good times. We looked forward to the parade every year. It was our Disneyland, like Walt Disney was coming to us. You got to see all kind of celebrities if you were lucky. Hey, wait a minute, I need a sip. Everyone, mom, grandma, and all the aunties, uncles, and cousins would start up early, setting up their little chairs, crates, and their cars and beers, and wait for the parade to come by. It was an all-day free party right out in the street. The parade started at 35th and King, and we lived on 40th and King. Me and my brothers would follow the parade all the way to the end. I went to all the barbecues and picnics and looked at all the floats. I saw all the performers. I was inspired by the parade. I got to see a lot of artists who performed on floats. New Edition, Bill Biv DeVoe. Everyone wanted to see the Bud Billiken Parade. Years later, when I was about 15 or 16, I sang for Lionel Richie. Wow, I never knew that. He was performing at the parade that year, and somebody had told him that I could sing and write songs. He asked them to bring me over to meet him, and he asked me to sing something I wrote. I can't remember what the song was, but Lionel Richard offered me $500 on the spot to give him the song. Now, at that time, I was broke. I couldn't even pay attention, and $500 was a lot of money. But even back then, I knew that my work was worth more than that. So I turned it down. I always wanted to be on the float performing like the groups that was famous back then. I would be in the crowd following the floats and waving. In 2011, I felt truly blessed to be the honorary Grand Marshal of the oldest and largest African American parade in the country. As my float rolled down King Drive, I pictured my mother sitting in her chair with the rest of the family and her friends watching the parade go by. As she had for so many years, I wish she could have been there to see her son wave at her. I always loved music, and I always loved basketball. And those days when I was hooping, you could always find me at Washington Park. Madden Park at 33rd, or at King Drive. Madden Park was where the big boys hooped. The older guys were much stronger than us kids, and they play harder. They banged. I always wanted to play with them. I never wanted to play with the guys my age. I knew if I played with the older guys, my game would be tighter. So I could call next, meaning we got next game. But once we got on the court, we regretted it because the older dudes didn't play. They were rough. They didn't care nothing about your age. They were out to win at any cost. They hit hard. I saw many shoulders dislocated, knees shattered, heads smashed on concrete. I got banged up so hard I couldn't help but be nervous. But I knew the only way to get over that was to keep on playing. I missed a lot of shots. I threw the ball away more times than I could count. Sometimes the bigger guys literally took the ball out of my hands. They frustrated me until I was ready to quit, but I never did. One day after a rough game, this older guy came up to me and said, do you know what you're doing, young fella? Yeah, I'm missing a lot of shots. I'm throwing that ball away, and they're taking it from me. It's more than that, he said. You're chasing the game. You're not letting the game come to you. Don't know what that means. Well, you need to know, bro. You need to stop forcing your shots. You got to find your groove. Will that get me points? It's not about shooting the ball in the basket, he said. It's about being positive. Dude had an interesting way of talking, so I kept listening. Plus, he saw I had something. He believed in me. His name was Robert Reed. The other guys called him Hope. At that time, Hope was on his way to becoming a neighborhood legend because of his street ball skills. His mother and my mom were very close. She lived right across the street from us. Hope was slim and smooth talking. He was about 14 years older than me, about 5'8", with a face like Dr. J. Later, when I watched him on the Robert Reed All-Star teams, when I watched him on the Robert Reed All-Star team, I saw he had Dr. J moves. Hope was a great point guard. He invited me and Bruce, whose hoop skills were sharper than mine, to his place. Hope schooled us. He had reels of NBA films. As we watched the movies, he'd point out subtle moves we had been missing. He talked about going with the flow, finding the flow. Hope said, "It's everything. The game got a flow. Finding the flow, is everything," he said. The game got a flow, and you gotta flow. The art is to let those two flows flow together. Hope knew I was into music, so he kept making musical comparisons. There's a righteous rhyme in every movement, he explained. It isn't something you create. The rhythm is already there. You tap into it, you ride it, you let it take you where you want it to go. Hope was a beautiful guy. I could feel that his mind was elevated, even though I couldn't do anything he suggested. For example, he said that range always hurts. Well, if I was in a close game or something tripped me on purpose, I went to rage. I went to rage. Didn't know any other way. He told me to control that rage. If you don't, rage will control you. When rage is in control, your game falls apart. Hold on, I gotta wipe my nose. Hold on, my nose just a running. Wait a minute, y'all. Excuse me. He said, I know, he said, somebody outside talking, trying to see what they talking. He said, control that rage, okay? When rage is in charge, your game falls apart. I know that's right. It seemed I seen it happen, but I was still no good at controlling my fits of rage. I got less angry though when Hope showed me how to finesse my jump shot. After I got shot, Hope helped me work on getting my jump shot back. You fighting that shoulder injury, he said, talking about that bullet lodged into my body. Don't fight it, work with it. Hope is one of my best friends to this very day. I still respect his wisdom when it comes to basketball. It's because of Hope that I started developing and strengthening my shoulder. Hope helped me rediscover my game. Bruce and I used to practice the moves that Hope taught us in the backyard. First, we nailed a bottomless crate to a pole. Then we moved it up to a bike wheel that we took all the spikes out of. And then we moved it up to a rim. We called it Planet Dunk-A-Lot. After playing for hours, we went over to 42nd and State for the best footlongs on the planet. Polar sausage smothered with onions, flaming hot barbecue sauce, and a mountain of fries. It was all good. Until you just boogie. Until you just can't boogie no more. Dancing through. In Chicago, you love the sweetness of summer because you made it through the meaningless of winter. One summer Saturday, the streets were bouncing and the whole neighborhood was dancing to the sound of my brother's Bruce's band. Me and my mother were singing Taste of Honey's Boogie Oogie Oogie. She looking over at me looking over at her, smiling all the while. A singing team that had everyone up and happy. Wasn't always that way though. There's a story behind how I got to sing that day. My brother's Bruce band was pretty cool. Bruce played bass. A guy named Poochie was on the lead guitar. Poochie's brother was also in the band. His name was Al. Al was on the drums, and then Terry was on the snares. No, that ain't snares. That's I don't know what word this is. They all did instrumental versions of popular songs. I watched them rehearse on the porch, and I knew the songs that they would rehearse, and I sang along with them in my head. Naturally, I wanted to sing with them, but Bruce would always tell me they didn't want a lead singer. I really wanted to be in that band, though. But the more I wanted it, the more Bruce seemed to be against it. When it came to anything to do with music, I knew myself, for example. I knew my stuff. For example, Bruce and his band would all tune up at the same time. I tell them, if y'all all tune up at the same time, by the end of the tuning session, everyone will be pretty much off key. Better tune up at different times. Better tune up one at a time. Get out of here, Bruce said. What do you know about this stuff, little brother? Bro, I said, I can sing. We good, Rob, he said. We don't need no singer. I said, I may have been younger, but I knew he was wrong. They played songs like Cool in the Game's Ladies Night that needed a singer. It was just a situation, though, where Big Brother Bro didn't want to mess with Lil Bro. But Lil Bro wasn't going away. I kept bugging Bruce to give me a chance. Let me rehearse. Let me sing. He kept saying they wanted to do only instrumentals. Finally, I went to the boss's mom. When I told her the story, she was really feeling me. After all, she was a singer too. She told Bruce, if you don't let Rob sing in your band, there ain't gonna be no band. Bruce had no choice. He had to let me sing. He told me what songs he wanted to sing, and I was ready, except for one thing. I didn't know all the lyrics. I'll have Lissetti, his girlfriend, okay? He had her write the words out for you, said Bruce. Bruce said he'll have Lissetti write the words out for him. So Lissetti had good handwriting. She printed the lyrics to the OJs. Used to be my girl, and Earth, Wind, and Fire's Serpentine Fire. The words were written on a yellow pad. The letters were big and the words couldn't be plainer, but I had a hard time reading them. I had a hard time reading anything. As I stumbled over the lyrics, Bruce and the other guys saw that I couldn't even make out simple words. At first, I tried to play it off like I couldn't really see them, but they figured it out. I think Bruce saw this as a way to keep me from being in a group. I got embarrassed because I thought he might be right. If I can't read, how am I going to be able to do this? So I stopped singing and I left. That night, our mother saw how upset I was. What's wrong, baby? I told her about how I make a fool of myself. No child of mine is a fool, she said. It's just that music comes to you and reading don't. What you need to do, son, is listen to the records, get the words directly from the singers, memorize the lyrics from the words, memorize the lyrics from the record. Then you don't have to read. All you got to do is sing. All your singing is something no one can make fun of. I did what my mother said. I learned the words from the records. And to make me feel even more secure, she came out there so we could sing side by side. We sounded as good as Taste of Honey, maybe better. Once I learned all the songs, it got me to the point where we would plug it in and sit on the porch and play. The whole block would turn out with people coming from everywhere just to hear us. Growing up, Bruce and I was close. We get into all kinds of trouble together. In spite of the fact that in the beginning he didn't want me in the band, we'd act up with all sorts of pranks. Sometimes we'd play with our food. Our mother hated that, but you know how boys are. One night, Mom fixed us a traditional soul food dinner. Ham hocks, pinto beans, cornbread, and greens. I liked it all, except the greens. Couldn't stand greens. When my mother went back into the kitchen, Bruce and I started messing with our food. I stabbed the greens with the fork, flicked them up, and just like that, they flew across the room and stuck against the wall. Mom didn't notice them right that night, but the next night with Grandma at the table, she did. Who the hell threw them greens against the wall, she asked. Bruce, I said, pointing my finger at my brother. Rob, said Bruce, pointing his finger back at me. One of y'all is lying, she said. I know which one it is. Bruce is lying. She said, I want to know which one. Bruce is lying, I said. I'm telling the truth, Bruce shot back. Rob lying. Robert would never lie, said Grandma, my defender. If she hadn't said that, maybe I would have confessed, but I didn't want to look like a liar in front of my grandma. She had me up on a pedestal. Okay, said Mom. If that's how y'all gonna play with it, fine. I'll be right back. She went into the yard and came back with a switch. Don't whoop Rob, said Grandma. He never do nothing like that. And if he did, he never lie about it. Stay out of this, Ma. This is between me and my sons. Mom next turned to us and said, pull your pants down right here, I asked. Right in front of Grandma. You heard me? Boy, right here. It was embarrassing, but we did it. We stuck out our booties and Mom started whooping us. First Bruce, then me. Then back to Bruce, then back to me. It got to hurting so bad, I finally blurted out the truth. Okay, I confess. I was the one who threw the greens. Go to your room, Bruce, she said. Rob, you stay here. Before she started whooping me again, I looked at Grandma and saw the sad look on her face. I had let her down Meanwhile, Mom was more furious than disappointed. She took that switch and let me have it twice as hard. When she was through, I could barely walk. Now get out of here, she said, and get in your room. Think about what you did. Think about what you lying. Think about what lying got you. And Rob, if I ever catch you lying like this again, I'm going to give you the worst whooping. You hear me, son? Yes, Mom, I said. This one here is called Willie Pearl. He don't sing like no boy. Robert sings like a man, says Willie Pearl. In my book, Willie Pearl gets her own chapter. I want to pay tribute, and though she's long gone, I want to tell the world how her spirit entered my soul and helped give me the confidence I have today. I owe her so much. Willie Pearl was my mom's best friend. We lived in the Vista Gardens apartment. Willie Pearl and her two boys, Bam and Wolf, stayed right upstairs above us. The woman had her problems, but she always managed to work and feed her sons. She always kept up appearances. When Willie Pearl came downstairs and showed up at our door, we got happy in a hurry. Her hair always was done up right, her clothes were fashionable and bright, and her smile could cut through anyone's sadness. In our poor neighborhood, she was the first one to buy her kids one of those toy Casio keyboards. Soon as I saw that flimsy little thing, I started fiending to play it. It called me. Hey, Joanne, said Willie Pearl. Look how your boy is eyeing that instrument. You think he can play it? I believe he can, Mom said. Well, let him try. I put my fingers over that Casio. I wanted to be one of those guys who could sit down and play whatever was on the radio, but I couldn't. With 2 or 3 fingers, I couldn't fool around baby chords. I heard simple melodies in my head, and those were the only ones I could manage to play on this keyboard. I started into this song called Orphanage, about a little boy who lost his mother and father. The story flowed out of me. I didn't try for it. It just was there. I found the right notes on the Casio and the right words to tell my little tale. Good God Almighty, Willie Pearl exclaimed. Your boy can sing, Joanne. Your boy really can sing. Where you learn that, Rob? Just made it up. No, you didn't. Oh, yes, he did, my mother said. No, you didn't. Oh, yes, he did, my mother said. Rob has a mind for making up music, girl. That's beautiful, said Willie Pearl. I believe he's blessed. Y'all keep this Casio down here. My boys don't care nothing about it, but your Rob, well, he's got a thing for it. Rob will use it. You mean that? I asked Willie Pearl. Indeed I do. Indeed I do, child. Now you go and write your song some more. Write one for your mama. Next day when Willie Pearl came over, I had my new song ready. What's it called, son? She asked. It's called Hard Times, I said. And it's for you, mama. Yes, ma'am. It's about my mom. Hard Times was a simple melody in a deep blues bag. When I started singing, I could see I tapped the main vein. I could see it in Willie Pearl's eyes, which were wet with tears. Hard times, I sang. She's working night and day. Hard times just to keep the landlord away. Hard times, she's done it all alone. Hard times, her love keeps her strong. Sing it again, son, Willie Pearl requested. I sang it again, and before you know it, the women was calling every last living person in Vista Gardens to come over and hear me sing about these hard times. He don't sound like no little boy, said Willie Pearl. Robert sound like a man. She was showing me off like I was her own son. Come here, y'all. Come here. Listen. Listen to this boy sing. After that, many were the times Willie Pearl would come over just to hear me sing. Some of those times I could see that she was flying high in a friendly sky. Other times she was sober as a church mouse. But every time she made me feel special in her loving way. She let me know that my songs lifted a heavy burden off her shoulders. It's a powerful feeling that I will still cherish to this day, knowing that something I created can lift burdens and lighten loads. As Willie Pearl closed her eyes and sat back with a sweet smile on her face, I let new melodies come to my fingers and new stories come to my lips. Willie Pearl, this beautiful woman who let me use this little Casio, inspired me to create. You touched my soul. You touched my soul, boy. Clear. You touched my soul, boy. You touched my heart. Her words of encouragement fueled my reaching some of my highest Soulacoaster moments. Guys, that's it for me today. I'm going to stop here and we will come back in soon, very soon. Maybe, probably Sunday, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. Whatever Spirit lead me to do. This book is getting me so emotional, I must admit, though. It really is. It's a good read. It's just taking me back to my own childhood. It really is. But anyway, guys, I won't be before you long. I got to get myself together. Peace and love, family. Talk to you soon.